All right. Eureka Whiskey Club, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I hope everyone had a good holiday. I know the New Year's coming up. New Year's Eve's tomorrow. Hopefully you have some delicious drams to partake in tomorrow and headed into a great 2025. Trevor here as always. I had a great Christmas. My family had a great Christmas. And we're really excited. I think we're really closing this year off on a bang with our Frey Ranch pick, and we'll get into that in a minute. I got my holiday gear going on, getting into the holiday spirits. So hopefully everyone, like I said, had a great holiday season. But super excited to introduce our guest this evening, and we'll get into that in a second. As always, we have some housekeeping going on. If you're looking for some end of year bottles to buy, we put a lot of some of the old previous picks on sale in the restaurant. So if you're looking for some extra whiskey, maybe for New Year's Eve, we have a lot of great whiskey that we've discounted bottle wise from like previous picks and things like that. We did release our Old Forester pick last month, the bourbon pick. So I know a lot of locations have sold out, but we do have some of those bottles left for active members. We have our Four Roses pick. Some restaurants still have that. And then our Blanton's Gold pick. I know there's still some of that floating around. We will be releasing our Blanton's single barrel pick as an additional bottle. I wasn't able to buy enough barrels this year to do a full feature, but we'll have those available for members at some point in January. So stay tuned to your emails. Keep a close eye on that. We'll be announcing when those will be released. Tonight, we are featuring Frey Ranch, which is an amazing distillery out of Fallon, Nevada. I had the pleasure, I was trying to get my timeline together earlier today. I went there in late April and just had an amazing time at their distillery, and we'll get into that. And we did a blending session with Colby and Ashley and Russell, and just the pick that the small batch kind of micro blend of a bunch of single barrel whiskeys just turned out phenomenal. And we've heard from you. We've gotten a lot of good feedback online about this pick. And again, I think it was a great way to close out 2024. And we look forward to a very successful 2025. We got a lot of great picks coming out in 2025 for full features. We're doing another Russell's Reserve pick this year. I just got a bunch of stuff from Woodinville, which I'm super excited about. Nashville Barrel Company, we're doing some stuff with. We're doing another something with Penelope. A few smaller distilleries like we always like to throw in. We're going to be doing a Larceny barrel pick. We're going to be doing, as always, all the Sazerac, the Weller stuff that will be released again sometime next year. So super excited for 2025, and just thank you for being a member. So before I bring our guests up, I do want to talk about prizes for tonight. We do have a couple great prizes to give away, which we'll get into. But first prize tonight is going to get a Frey Ranch single barrel wheat pick that's supposed to be phenomenal. Colby was telling me just some of the people that were clamoring to get their hands on a bottle, and we have that to give away tonight. So that's going to be first prize, and then second prize will be kind of another swag bag. Going to get some Frey Ranch, a Frey Ranch mug, some barrel aged coffee, a candle, and then a Frey Ranch dish towel. So kind of a secondary swag bag. But I'd love to bring on our guests this evening, Colby and Ashley Frey, co-owners and operators of Frey Ranch Distillery. Thank you for joining us this evening, and it's a pleasure to have you on. You just want to quickly introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do, and then we'll get on to to learning more about Frey.
Yeah, good to see you again. I'm Colby Frey.
I'm Ashley. Thank you so much for having us. Really excited to be here tonight, and we've already got our samples out.
Yeah, I had a few already.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And you guys said you had good holidays, yeah?
Yeah,
Super
it was
good.
wonderful.
Yeah, we have little kids, so that's what it's all about. I mean, obviously for the other reasons, but man, it's fun with little kids and having the holidays and opening up presents and the excitement in their eyes and everything. It makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah. Did you decorate the ranch? I'm sure it's all decked out with lights and stuff? Or
yeah, we have our tractor, our decorated tractor is right in front of our house, and so every year, me and my little boy, we decorate a John Deere tractor, an old John Deere tractor, and we put green lights on all the green parts of the tractor, and the wheel, the wheels itself is yellow, and we put yellow lights on that part of the tractor.
Yeah, the blinged out
It's
tractor.
super fun at night. Like, it doesn't do much justice during the day. It just looks like a normal tractor, but man, at night it's really cool.
That's awesome. Well, I guess I kind of teased earlier. Colby and Ashley were nice enough to host me back in April, and just the property and the ranch, or the farm is just. You have to go experience for yourself. I loved the product before, but by the time I left, I loved it a little bit more. So Ashley, Colby, I'd love for you just kind of tell us about Frey Ranch. How did it start? Talk about the farm, and Colby, your family history, and kind of just give us the rundown of how this crazy adventure all started for you guys.
Sure. My family's been farming here in northern Nevada since 1854, which in a lot of places doesn't seem like it's that old, but keep in mind, Nevada didn't become a state until 1864, 10 years later. And so we've been continually farming in Nevada since 10 years before it was even considered a state. We actually had some of the first deeded property in Nevada, and we've been continually farming in Nevada ever since. And really the reason why that's important is anywhere you go in the world, agriculture is completely different. And so if we did what works well in Fallon, Nevada, in the Midwest, or in Texas, or in California, or in Washington, anywhere else, we'd probably fail, and vice versa. If they do what works well there here, they would probably fail too. And so we have that 170 plus years of knowledge that my family's passed on, of trial and error, and what to do and what not to do, and how to improve things. And with anything, with better ingredients, with better inputs, you end up with better outputs. And so we grow all of our grains. We really understand the soil and our climate and our farming techniques, and we really we use that to grow the best quality grains. And so ever since I was a little boy, I really wanted to be a farmer. And as I got older, I really started to love whiskey, and it was kind of that aha moment, like, let's take that 175 years worth of growing grain in our soil and our climate and everything, and really try to make it into something special, which we feel is whiskey, and kind of combining two passions into one. And so that's why we created what we call the whiskey farm. All of our grains are all grown for a purpose, and in the past, my family and most farmers just grow the grain for the commodity market. There's nothing wrong with that, but like, they're not really grown for a purpose. And it's kind of every farmer's dream is to be able to make a product or do something with the products that they grow. And ours is to make it into whiskey, which is kind of a dream come true.
So Ashley, when Colby came to you and said, I want to open a distillery, what was your first reaction?
Yeah.
Or was it your idea? I don't know.
No. He's definitely the inspiration behind opening the distillery and really highlighting the grains. But Colby's kind of a fearless entrepreneur, and he loves to take on new projects. And so for us, really being able to showcase those grains, like Colby said, and share something that we really nurture here on the farm and turn into a product is really our dream come true. We're located here in northern Nevada, in a very small town. So to be able to share a little bit of part of our family and what we do here on the farm with really every whiskey lover out there is something that we're so passionate about. And it really is what keeps us going. When we see the Instagram posts and getting to do things like this, it's so much fun because you're really experiencing something straight from, our home. It
is amazing. The whiskey community is amazing. Like, the people and everybody in it. So like warm and welcoming, and it is a lot. I don't know how to explain it, but like, literally our house is right next to the distillery, which is right in the middle of the farm. And like, it's like who we are. Like, we don't, not that we ever want to get away from it, but like we live and breathe it. Every morning we wake up, I look outside, I see the distillery, and I see the beautiful rye and wheat and barley fields right now. And so it's really kind of a fun life.
So you come from a family of farmers. You yourself a farmer. You say you want to open a distillery. Like, what did that transition process look like? Did you bring someone in to, as a consultant to kind of help show you how the distillation process works? Were you kind of distilling on the side already? Like, how did the learning process happen from being a farmer of these crops and then making whiskey?
That's a good question. I think it all starts, first of all, like being a farmer, you have to be a little bit of a mechanic and a welder and a plumber and an electrician. And, we can't hire somebody to come fix everything all the time. You have to be a little bit of a soil scientist, a horticulturist, a weather man, like all this stuff. And it just kind of brings you a little bit well-rounded, but it really gave me, I guess the other thing that really gave me confidence too is growing up with my dad, we would always we'd remodel cars, we'd rebuild tractors, we'd fix our own equipment. We've rebuilt old like antique cars. We remodeled houses, like everything. It really gave me the confidence to really focus on things and build something. And so that was really kind of fun. But we started distilling legally in the state of Nevada in 2006. But there are no state laws yet. And so we got a federal experimental license. And what that meant is we could make it, age it, experiment with it. We just couldn't sell it or let anybody else taste it at that time. So we finally got the laws passed in 2013. And so at that point, we were really figuring out the basics of distillation and kind of figuring out what we wanted to do. And then we hired our master distiller, Russell, and we really kind of fine-tuned, honed in everything, what we wanted to do, and figured it out ourselves. And a couple times we considered getting consultants, but what we found a lot more valuable is going to different distilleries and just asking questions. And the distilling world, the production side is so open and like they're so friendly and nice. And so we went to all kinds of distilleries and they'd answer any questions we wanted. And a lot of it, we learned a lot of what to do. And sometimes we kind of thought maybe if we tweak that or we do something a little bit different, we can create our own product. And we felt that was really valuable because we didn't want to make somebody else's spirit. We wanted to make ours and really figure it out. And there's a saying like, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. And so to really focus in on one part of the process and ask a lot of questions and then figure out which way we thought was the best out of the 15 or 20 different answers that we got and really created our own product. So that was really a fun time for us.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you said about, kind of having to be a jack of all trades. I have a question later on. I think that kind of answered it, but I think that's super cool. So how many distilleries in Nevada are there now? I mean, were you guys the first legal distillery, or I apologize if you already said that?
Yeah, no, we were the first legal distillery, and I mean, even the one since 2006. But then we were able to lobby and get the laws passed in 2013. And then we were the first one to apply and receive our craft distilling license after they passed the actual laws in the state of Nevada.
Yeah, and I think we took our time making sure that we released a really great product.
Yeah.
So other people did apply and get their license and get a product out before we did. But for us, it was doing it the right way when we launched.
Yeah. And so we didn't actually release our first whiskey until December of 2019. And so because we didn't want to shortcut it. It was a 5-year-old whiskey at the time. And we didn't want to release any young whiskeys or anything like that.
Yeah, we've never sourced a drop of whiskey from anyone else.
Source it either.
Something we're really proud of.
You only get one first impression, and we didn't want to ruin that by either doing a young whiskey or sourcing whiskey from somebody else. So we waited, which was really hard, except for the fact that we actually got to taste it all the time, anytime we wanted to. So that really helped alleviate some of the pressure to release it early.
Did you guys do any, I think you may have told me, did you do any like gin or vodka or anything like that,
We did.
In the first few years while you waited for the whiskey to age?
Yeah, we did. And we really didn't. What's the word? Like, we just released them here locally. We didn't really push them or anything like that because we knew we were a whiskey distillery, and that just kind of gave us something to do while the whiskey was aging. And it was kind of invaluable because we learned a lot about packaging and the laws and everything, so that when we actually did, our whiskey was finally ready, we knew we wanted a custom package and kind of what the label wanted, and really tweaked everything in the right way. Really was helpful too.
Awesome. Yeah. I want to get into the packaging stuff too, because I think that's one of the first things that stood out to me. People first impressions are based on sight a lot, and you guys do have extremely beautiful packaging. I know it was very intentful and thoughtful on how the design went into it, which we'll get into in a minute. I want to stay on kind of the production process. You said that you grow all your grains But you're also sourcing water from Lake Tahoe, right? Is that correct? And
Well,
it's snow melt,
yeah. So we
a
get
lot of the water?
yeah, it's beautiful Sierra snowmelt. So it comes from both sides of Lake Tahoe in the Sierra Mountains. Um, and it comes down the Truckee and the Carson River to Lahontan Reservoir naturally, and then that's where we get all the water to irrigate all of our crops. And so, we're really lucky. Nevada is a huge desert. It's you go any direction and it's dirt, everywhere. But we're in the oasis of Nevada, and we get all that beautiful Sierra snowmelt is what we use to irrigate all of our crops. And so, that's why we can do what we can do where we're at right now.
Are you using that water to make the whiskey as well, or is that water just used to irrigate the crops?
I mean, that's the water that recharges all of the aquifer underneath us, and then so eventually it makes it, but it comes from our well here on the farm.
And is there any unique thing about the water that you feel helps aid the crops or changes the flavor profile of the whiskey? Or
well, I mean, with anything, you want really clean, fresh water, and one of the things that
do you treat the water or you?
No, it's just fresh water. I mean, obviously the water that we proof down and everything we treat, but not going into the stills. It comes right out of our well. It's beautiful water. I drank it pretty much every day growing up, and that's probably what's wrong with me, I guess. But
I'm sure it's better than the hose water that I used to drink as a kid. So.
Oh man, I know, no, but I mean, it's just this beautiful water. We're really lucky to be where we are right here because it's actually out of a well that my grandpa put in like the 1940s, and it's just always been an amazing, like just the best tasting, best source of water. Yeah.
What else? I mean, you obviously when people think, and we've talked about this before with other featured distilleries, that the average American whiskey drinker, not our members because they know a lot, but I think if you talk to that, like people assume that most whiskey comes from Kentucky or Tennessee. Obviously, climate has a big impact on anything you're making. Talk to me about kind of the challenges of the climate of Northern Nevada. Kentucky is always, people say, you have the hot days and the cold nights, which is that something similar that you get in Northern Nevada? Do you feel that helps the aging process, or what are the positives and kind of challenges with making whiskey in Northern Nevada versus Kentucky or Tennessee?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why like we have the ideal area for whiskey. The obvious ones, we have really cold winters, we have really hot summers, and that allows the barrels to expand during the hot summers and contract during the cold winters. It pushes that whiskey into the wood and it pulls it out of the wood. And so it'll get down to like 0 degrees during the coldest part of the winter. It gets up to probably 110 during the hottest part of the summer. And that really allows that expansion and contraction. Now, it's not very humid here. We're very dry. Like you said, we're the driest state in the nation, which is actually good on the farming side because we have a reservoir. We irrigate the crops when they need to get irrigated. We're not relying on Mother Nature or anything like that. But a lot of times either rainfall or humidity add a lot of problems in crops like fungus, mold, mildew. Like I have a friend that has to go every year, or doesn't have to, but he goes every year to spray fungicides on all the corn crops in Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Illinois, like all over the place, because they have those mold, mildew, fungal problems that we've never had here. We've never had to spray any fungicides or anything like that because of the way that we irrigate and everything else. Now, that's a little bit of a negative on the barrel house because you actually need the humidity to keep the barrels from drying out. And actually, if you take it a step further, you actually get better quality at high humidity as well as quantity, because at high humidity, you still have angel share. It's not as much as, evaporation as the lower humidity situations, but at high humidity, you actually lose more alcohol than water. And what that means, your proof will stay the same or possibly go down. And that's important to us because if our proof gets out of hand and it gets really high and we want to cut it to 90 proof like our flagship bourbon or 100 proof like our flagship rye, then we have to add more water and it's less concentrated and less flavorful. And so what's really great about this situation, though, is it's beneficial in the farm to be dry, but in the warehouses, we can actually humidify them. And so we humidify the barrel warehouses. We do not temperature control it, so we don't cool it or heat it. but we kind of get the best of both worlds because, it's a lot easier to add humidity to the barrel warehouse than it is to take it away from the farm. But we do have crazy temperature swings between day and night. It's funny. Me and Ashley we were in Kentucky one time and kind of just joking with the person giving the tour. They were saying, "Oh, we have 4 distinct seasons," and me and Ashley are like kicking each other like we get all 4 in one day sometimes here. I mean, it'll be snow in the morning and it'll be like 75, 80 degrees in the afternoon. And
I know we were up to, I think, 108 this summer for a week, which is really hot for Northern Nevada. And we're in like the 30s, during the winter. So, I mean, that's a big
for
temperature.
The high, I mean, it'll get down to
swing.
0 during the coldest part. And so that's the most important part is more even than the day and night, because it doesn't, the barrels don't have time to, there's so much mass in a big warehouse that it's not going to really change from day to night inside the barrel. It's the seasonal change is even more important. But a lot of times it'll be, I'll get up to bale hay and it'll be like 45, 50 degrees at night. And then during the day, it'll be 90 to 100. I mean, there's 50,
but
60
in those
degree
like
temperature
mid
swings.
seasons, like in the spring, when it's getting like warm, it's like 80, 90 degrees outside. You go in the barrel warehouse because the whiskey's cold. It's cold in there. And then vice versa in like November, when it starts to get cold outside, the whiskey's still really warm from the summer.
It takes a while to equalize because it's got all that heat. But it's super fun to watch that. But it's crazy because you can really see that expansion and contraction inside the barrels. Because if you take a bung off in the summer, it's got pressure. It wants to pop out. I mean, it's so easy to pull it out. Now, if you try to do that same thing in the coldest part of the winter, it's hard to pull it out because it's got this vacuum that's like sucking that bung back towards the barrel until you hear like you finally get it a little bit and it kind of has this like this suction of air going into the barrel, and it's really it's amazing to see that in real life.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, like I said, most people think of Kentucky or Tennessee, so it's always interesting to talk to artists and craftsmen like yourselves about the successes and challenges of making a product in a different climate than it's traditionally made in. So that's definitely interesting. I want to talk to you about, and we're going to get into tasting here in a little bit, but Ashley, I think one of the first times we met was it was Zoom or whatever. I think the bottle is not only is the product inside the bottle phenomenal, the bottle itself is just such a piece of art. Like it stands out. And yes, everyone, this is how much I've drank so far. Please, it's the holidays. Don't judge me. But tell us a little bit more about the intent and the design of the bottle, because that's really special. And I think that, anyways, I'll pass it to you because I know there's a lot going on there.
No, definitely. We spent a lot of time, about a year, getting our packaging and design and overall look and feel of the brand ironed out. It wasn't something that just happened overnight. It definitely was very intentional. Starting with the topper, it's in the shape of a bolt. And those of you that have your bottle and you've opened it, like it's got some weight to it. It's not plastic. It's definitely, a metal, recycled metal. We wanted this to like feel really good in your hand. And then the inspiration for the shape came from the farm. So just a common tool, something that you would see here all the time. A bolt, something that Colby finds in his
farmers
pockets.
Are always reusing stuff. And so Ashley's like, Colby's making fun of me basically by doing that.
In a good way. But that was the inspiration for the topper. And then the label color is that Frey Ranch yellow is what we call it. We pull it from the corn. And this is actually an ear of corn that we grew right here on the farm. We keep it in the office for this purpose. But we pull that inspiration from the corn. We moved it over to represent the brand. We call it the Frey Ranch yellow. And then the shape of the label, it represents a belt buckle and a belt. It wraps all the way around. And this is the same shape as a belt and belt buckle that was passed down from Colby's grandfather and to his dad and then to him. And that's just a very subtle nod to his family history and his legacy, and a really nice family heirloom that Colby wears almost daily. If you ever see him out and about, he's got it on. So people always have like a light bulb moment when they see that. And then if you have your bottle, flip it over because embossed on the rim of the glass, it says be good to the land and the land will be good to you. This was a design feature that the glass manufacturer said, there's no way you guys are going to be able to get that done. Like, that's just so incredibly hard. And we went down and watched the glass like come down the line. And sure enough, after a day of running our glass, they were able to perfect this design.
But that's really important to us because on the farm, it's kind of the foundation of the farm. You got to take really good care of our soil, our climate, our natural resources. Like, as farmers, if we don't do that, then we don't have a future. And my goal in life is to pass on the farm in as good or better condition than we received it in. And so to do that, we have to take really good care of everything. And so that be good to the land and the land will be good to you is kind of it's our foundation of the farm and the foundation of the bottle. But
then people are probably going to ask about the weight.
We always consider like we're like temporary stewards of the land. Like, if you think about it, when I die, I can't take the farm with me. It's been passed on from my forefathers, and my goal is to pass it on to my kids in as good or better condition. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, but people always ask about the weight too. That's always like the number one question. I didn't ask them to make a very heavy bottle, but I did tell them I want it to feel good in your hand. And you know how when you pick up a bottle on the shelf and it just feels good in your hand? Well, that's where the weight came from. We absolutely love it. It fits here on the farm. It fits our personality, and every design element is really thoughtful, and something that we're proud of.
It's like I said, it's beautiful. And it feels great and it tastes even better, which is really important. Cool. I have a few more questions, and then I want to get into tasting the whiskey and kind of talk about how we came up with this blend. And I think, like I said, I alluded to this earlier, like, what do you think about being a farmer makes you such a great distiller?
That's a good question. I think in the distilling world, and this is kind of a broad statement, so there's a lot of people that really understand what's going on. But in the distilling world, a lot of times distilleries don't know what's possible on the farm. Distillers that are just distillers, and farmers don't really know what the distillers need or want or what's possible on either side. And so by really understanding the farming side and the grains, and then really understanding the distilling side is the best way to kind of tweak both sides to get the best product out of both. And so, grain is to whiskey what grapes are to wine. And I've always found it like ironic how much like the wineries are always talking about the grapes, where they came from, how they're grown, what's, who grew them, all those little nuances that nobody really talks about as much in the distilling world. And so that's what I love about like growing our own grain as farmers.
Sorry, my son wants to say hi.
Hey, buddy.
Can you say hi to Ashley and Colby?
Hi.
Hey, you look like you're about 3.5.
Are you 3.5? All right, go back inside and tell me. Sorry, he always likes. Sometimes he likes to make an appearance. Sorry, got a little distracted. So, the crops that you guys use, what percentage of the crops are grown for making whiskey, and what percentage are made for, selling to the whoever you sell it to?
That's a good question. So like 100% of the grain that we grow now, it goes into the distillery. We farm about 2,500 acres total, but we grow a lot of alfalfa also. And the alfalfa that we grow it's kind of amazing. It goes to China, Dubai, Japan, and Taiwan. It's really high. We're in the high desert here, and going back to hot days and cool nights, what that does is during the alfalfa and growing the grains during the hot days, it allows the alfalfa particularly to grow during the hot days, but breathe during the cool nights. And that creates what's called TDN, total digestible nutrients. And so we get really high TDN hay, alfalfa hay, and it's sought after around the world. It goes from here to Long Beach, California, gets on a boat and goes all over the place, which is kind of the opposite of our grain. Our grain, we plant, grow, produce everything right here, and it never leaves our possession until we make it into whiskey. And what Ashley likes to say, none of the grains, none of the ingredients in all of our whiskeys have ever left our possession until you either pick up some bottles at the tasting room or we send it to our distributor. So it's kind of fun. But it's also really important to kind of geek out a little bit on the farming side. It's also really important to rotate our crops here, because if we grow the same crop in the same field year after year after year, what happens is you start to deplete certain nutrients that crop needs. You also start to get bugs and different types of problems that occur in certain crops. Like, for example, like certain bugs like certain crops. So if you grow the same crop in the same field every year, they start to multiply. And so then you have to start spraying and a lot of things that you wouldn't have to do if you rotate into different crops. So we'll rotate from alfalfa to grain, and then a lot of times back to alfalfa, grain for a couple of years, and then back to alfalfa. So
awesome. Yeah, I think I asked you that on the farm, and I forgot, because I thought that you maybe were selling the grain, but everything that all the grains go into the
all the grain that we
whiskey.
buy goes into the whiskey. Occasionally we might have some that we grow. Like this last year was all here. When we started, we actually were able to kind of pick some and sell some to the dairy. There's a dairy next door. We'd sell some. But maybe what you're thinking too is all of the byproducts that come off the stills, all of the spent grain that comes off the still goes to the dairy next door. And so the dairy obviously makes a lot of manure. And so we get that manure, we spread it on our fields, so we don't have to have a lot of commercial fertilizer. It's the best fertilizer there is. It has every available nutrient that a plant might need. So we don't have to buy fertilizer that typically comes from places like Russia, South America, South Africa, Canada, like all over the world, And so that might be what we were talking about.
I think that sounds familiar. I don't have a bag of it, but and we'll get into the whiskey, but the jerky was like so good.
Isn't that crazy? So
it was so tell us, I don't normally talk about the food that we include in the bag, but
happy to
tell us about the jerky, because it was so good.
Shout out to Boozy Jerky. They approached us maybe about a year ago, and we really, are pretty strategic about who we want to work with. And if you know Colby, and Russell, they love their beef jerky. Russell's always making jerky at home. He makes some of the best beef jerky. So he said, "Oh, well, have them send me some. I'm going to see if their jerky is good enough, for the Frey Ranch name." And we started tasting their jerky, and we're like, we really like it. And if you go on their website, they've got a whole line of all sorts of jerkies. We said, well, can we make our own jerky recipe?
And we liked them all, but they were all better for different reasons. So we're we like the spice on this one, but we like the texture of this one, and we kind of like the garlicky part of this one. And we're like, can you just combine all that into one? And then he's like, yeah. And so then
we're maybe a little bit less brown sugar, up the garlic, add a little bit more spice, add some, Frey Ranch, so good in the Frey Ranch. And so he sent us a sample, and we're like, it's
holy crap, he got it perfect on the first try after telling him what we wanted, how we wanted to make ours, different than all of his other ones.
Fun.
Well, it was great. I killed my bag very quickly.
So we had to send him a lot of whiskey to put in that jerky though. So it's good.
Nice. So let's talk about the very small batch. So all our members this month received the cast strength very small batch, which was a blend of, I have the notes here. Was it seven? Was it seven barrels?
Yeah.
So and it came out at 126.18 proof, so pretty high proof. So like I said, I was lucky enough to go to the farm and be given a tour by Colby and Ashley, and it was a phenomenal experience. And Kyle was there with us, and I know a lot of our members know Kyle. He's a great guy and a great ambassador and for you guys. So we sat down at a table, and we were there for maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and just blending and being mad scientists. And
so
I got to give you credit too. You made it really easy, because we tasted a lot of samples, and I think a lot of people would have been a little bit undecisive or not really knowing. You were like, nope, that's it. That one, I like that one, and this one's good. And it was super fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So we pulled out, gosh, I can't remember if it was 30 or more of our single barrels that we had in the single barrel program when we started kind of separating them like spicy and sweet, and just started blending from there. It was great.
Yeah, it was super.
Kyle
super
did a
fun.
great job keeping us organized too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and you did a really good. You can tell that you've done that a few times. So
Yeah. It's it's I've learned that it's better just to go with your gut or your first impression versus like if you overthink it, then your gut usually, at least my gut, I feel like I can trust my gut most of the time. And it's gotten a lot bigger this holiday season, so I can even trust it a little bit more. But no, it was a super fun experience, and we landed on this blend. As always, if you're tasting, sometimes when we do these picks, some members will receive, when they're single barrels, some members will receive a barrel that's a different proof or different flavor profiles. Everyone's receiving the same thing this month. It's a blend of 7 single barrel whiskeys, and we'll get into the single barrel pick that we also did during that time. But I don't know if it's like by the end of that blending session, I think we were all feeling a little bit good and feeling good about what we chose. But the final product is just phenomenal. I get like citrus peel on the nose. And maybe it's because I've been around Christmas trees but I get some like spruce tips almost on the palate. Obviously some traditional classic notes of baking spices, vanilla. I think I worked on the tasting notes with Kyle on this one, and he came up with oatmeal cookie, which I thought was really good.
Like spot on.
Yeah,
I was like, whoever that was, like,
I gotta give it. That's Kyle. That was Kyle.
Oatmeal raisin cookie, and then I am picking up a little bit of that candied grapefruit on like the back of the back of the palate before the finish for me. But I'm really picking up, like, if you brew a fresh like pot of coffee, like when you walk in the room, you can smell like that really, really nice savory coffee smell. And to me, that's what I'm like picking up, mixed with some of that toffee, like a vanilla nut, like coffee.
Yeah. So if you're watching live, feel free to throw your tasting notes in the chat. We always like to see what other picking and what you're picking up.
Yeah. I did put a drop of water in mine, and it really opens up that oatmeal raisin cookie for sure.
Yeah. So Aang is saying, definitely that peel for sure. Love the grains. Ton of baking spice, brown sugar, oatmeal is what I get. Fresh savory coffee. Tim Moore of the Whiskey Idiots. If you don't follow the Whiskey Idiots, shout out to the Whiskey Idiots. Go give them a follow. Saying the finish is so long. Yeah, it's nice. It makes you feel warm inside for the holiday season.
Good winter whiskey.
Yeah, and then I don't have a bottle here, but we also did release, when we were doing this tasting, you two were kind enough to kind of bring out some gems for us, and I fell in love with the single barrel pick that we picked, which had this huge peanut brittle note that was just killer. I wish I had some here, but if you were able to grab that bottle, I hope you enjoy it. I know that there are some bottles still available in our restaurants. If you're a Whiskey Club member, it's $95 a bottle. But that's a true Frey Ranch single barrel bourbon, and I think it comes in around like 130 proof, so a little bit higher than this. And it's got this amazing peanut brittle note.
That was a phenomenal barrel pick, and I remember the moment we were all sitting here, and you said, well, I'd love to do a single barrel pick, and I said, well, just so happens we had recently pulled down new barrels, and we had this amazing batch of single barrel options, and a couple of them were those really nice like viscous barrels where they're very rich on the palate and have like that peanut brittle, and that was when you picked, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah, again, I wish you let me take the bottle home.
Oh, yeah.
I polished that off. This was back in April, so I polished that off a little while ago. Yeah. But let's get into getting back on track here. We're gonna jump. I'm gonna just a couple more questions, and then we'll jump into your song choices, and then we'll jump into questions from the audience. We'll pick some winners. If you're joining late, the prizes tonight, if you haven't got your questions in, First prize is going to get a bottle of Frey Ranch single barrel wheat, which Colby was telling me. Who were you telling me was had
Yeah, this is the one. So it's Bruzel, and TJ at Bruzel's is a super fun, amazing person. He came out and tried it out of the barrel, and this is the one he talked about on his episode that he came out here to Frey Ranch with, and it was like, this one is, I don't know how to explain it. It's like creme brulee, caramel, marzipan, and
birthday
but then
cake.
it also like goes into like funfetti birthday cake. It's like the most,
yeah, you let me try that. Yeah, I remember.
Crazy one. It's like super fun, and so we bottled it, and this one kind of got, we held a couple bottles back, and you said you needed a special prize, and so that's why we held it back specifically for this.
Awesome. And then second prize is going to be a Frey Ranch swag bag. We got a Frey Ranch coffee mug, some other brand, some barrel aged coffee, and then a candle and a dish towel, I believe. So
these are some fun items from our tasting room. Oh, and a candle. We upcycle all the glass from the tasting room. So I picked all these items out. I'm really excited to share them with your club members. So
awesome. So questions in. We're gonna get to questions soon because I'm super excited about this pick, and I think I have a ton more questions which you probably won't get to. So I'm gonna jump into the member questions. I'm gonna get to your song choices really quickly. We always ask our guests to pick kind of 2 songs that either embody the distillery or whiskey in general. So I don't know who chose what, but your song choices were "Rain Is a Good Thing." It's a very farmer appropriate song, so I would I guess that Colby chose that song. I don't know. And then Shabuzi, a bar song, which I think
I was so shocked when I looked at the playlist. I said, nobody's done. Rain is a good thing. Come on now. Rain makes corn. Corn makes whiskey.
Corn makes whiskey.
Yeah. Come on now. Makes my baby a little tipsy.
Yeah. No, those are great. Yeah, really fun songs.
Yeah. So those will be added to the playlist on Spotify. And one last question before we get into the Q&A. Anything exciting, shout outs, anything you want to share with the members, up and coming things, other than coming to see you guys in Fallon, Nevada? What are you guys excited about for 2025? What should we expect next from Frey Ranch?
2025 is going to be such a fun
I'm
year
excited for our never-ending project of our it's our harvester series. Yeah.
I knew you were going to go there.
I know. I'm excited for it, but we were supposed to release it like 3 or 4 months ago, and then the packaging got delayed, and then delayed again, and then delayed again.
It's
supposed to be here anyways.
It really was for our tenure. We put our first whiskey in barrels in 2014, and we did a blend with Nancy Fraley. It was our second blend. The Eureka blend was our first one, but this was our second blend with Nancy Fraley. We're calling it our first harvest. And we have a beautiful like silo box that it's going in, and a really nice label. But
an actual tin box has like a tractor topper on it.
Follow us on social.
But I'm super excited about it. I'm super happy about the liquid inside too. We gave with Nancy, we did probably tasted 100 different barrels and 14 different mash bills. And
took a little bit longer than an hour.
Huh? It's actually, I think we actually bottled, so we tasted through 100 and something barrels, and I think it's about a quarter of the size of what we bottled for Eureka. So it was a lot more barrels for a lot less bottles. But
this is the collector's item. This is the first. This is the
first.
That's
what I'm saying. Like, we got our stuff together. Yeah. No, it's going to be super fun. I'm excited about that.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into our questions from our members. If you see me going off camera, it's just I got to check the chat here. Let's see here. See, Mark Horowitz asks, when you pull barrels to bottle, how do you monitor the rick house? Do you use computers to monitor the weight of the rick house is evenly distributed, or a Plum Bob? I don't know what that means, so I'll defer to you guys.
So what he's talking about with the Plum Bob is, for those that you don't know, so a Plum Bob is just like a little weight that's on a string,
in like they'll
mark it
in
the middle of the building. Yeah. And if the building starts to move one way, obviously the floor is going to stay in the right spot, and it'll move on the floor. The Plum Bob will move, and if your building's starting to tip, because a lot of times when barrel warehouses have a lot of weight up tall, and if they move just a little bit, that means your weight is getting off center, and then the more it moves, the faster it can go and the faster it can fall. Now, fortunately for us, our barrel warehouses are only 7 barrels high, whereas in Kentucky, I mean, they're super high. Ours is 2-story high, so we don't have that problem quite as much. And if you've ever been into our barrel warehouse, it is built like a tank. I mean, it's got the wood is like 3 times bigger than it needs to be. But we did that on purpose. I wanted to be able to drive a bulldozer on the roof if we ever needed to.
The bottles are so heavy, and they just like fit us.
Maybe Santa Claus could land on the roof or something. So we actually don't even have a Plum Bob in it, and I should. But it's never going to go under. We actually had an earthquake. How long ago?
Like 3 weeks ago, we had a crazy earthquake.
3 weeks ago, we had a
oh wow.
And the lights in the tasting room were literally going about like this much.
Oh geez.
First thing we thought about is the barrel warehouses. Went out there, not a problem.
Everything was fine.
So wait, I don't remember the rest of the question.
We monitor.
Do you use computers to monitor the weight?
No.
Yeah, not the weight. No.
All right. Matthew Archer asks, how has the harvest been since starting Frey Ranch? How do you guys manage low yields? I'm sure the flavors coming out every year are different based on the weather experienced.
Yeah, and I think weather has a little bit to do with it, but there's a lot of other things like fertilizer management, the seed selection and variety, things like I got sidetracked already.
Like the terroir
the different fields. So every year we take soil tests, we take tissue tests of the fields. We always want to put on what the plants need, not any extra. Be really careful in that way. But we always plant about 1.5 to 2 times what we actually need. And then we always want to have, or I take that back. We always want to have 1.5 times in stock or estimate in our yields to have 1.5 times supply, because we can't just buy grain from somebody else. So if you go into our expected plans, what we want to grow, or what we want to produce and what we're growing. And it's really this fine line of having 1.5 times grain on hand here stored at the ranch. That way we always have plenty of extra, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We don't have the luxury of making a phone call and having grain hauled in from somewhere else. Yeah.
Let's see here. Tim Moore asks, do you feel that, I'll ask you anyways, but do you feel that 7 years of waiting period gave you a leg up over other craft distilleries since you didn't need to source or blend?
Well,
it was hard. Like I definitely would feel the pressure, because we would be able to taste the whiskey and see the process and kind of like trust, what we're doing. But it was really, really hard to not, put a 3-year or 4-year in
because
a whiskey. Yeah.
Every year we're producing, it's costing us a tremendous amount of money in barrels and propane and raw goods and everything else, that it was a little bit hard. So we were really working hard. We would do a lot of custom work for other farmers and other farms, and which means like we take our equipment and do harvesting and different stuff for other people, just so we could buy a few more whiskey barrels and didn't have to sell it early. And man, that was a really like a hardworking part of our life, where we were really putting it away and trying to do it the right way. And so like when we released our first whiskeys, we had years worth of inventory that we hadn't even sold a bottle yet. Yeah.
I'm sure that was scary and exciting all at the same time.
It was super fun.
If I had to go back, I'd do it the same way. Like I feel like we did it the right way. So
I think it was a little bit hard, because I almost felt like other distilleries that might have sourced, I almost felt like they got a leg up because they were building their brand several years before. So nobody knew about Frey Ranch, and they already knew about a lot of other brands that, or us, if we had built our brand in that way. But like I said, there's only one first impression, and we didn't want to have our first impression with somebody else's whiskey. So we had to wait.
Smart. Frank Mesa asks, your barrel strength ryes have absolutely blown me away. Any thoughts about having a regular full strength rye as part of the product line?
Yeah. So we talked about a farm strength rye, and we will eventually have a farm strength rye. The problem is that our supply has always been 80% bourbon, 15% rye, and then 5% like other off the wall fun stuff. And so we just don't have a crazy amount of rye right now, but eventually we will have to have a farm strength.
Cool. William Hall asks, are there any specific strains or heirloom grains you are looking at without giving away any secrets?
We've always played around with different varieties, and so like this year we did 12 different varieties of corn, just maybe like a small plot, like one planter width or one harvester width of each variety in a field. And we always test those, and it's kind of fun because there's a lot of variances in corn. We do it with wheat, we do it with barley, especially, and oats, and rye not so much. Rye is pretty much, we got our variety figured out, but it's super fun to do that because it also depends on how it grows, number one. How it mills is very important, how it mashes and ferments, then obviously how it tastes, and so it's really fun to play around with those different varieties of grain. So we always do that. But even more than just like the heirloom varieties of each one, what's fun for me is to taste the wheat, rye, barley, and corn, and even oats. We've done triticale, we've done teff, and we've done them all at 100% so that there's no outside influence for any of the grains. So it's super fun to go and taste them all, because I've actually had some Kentucky distillers tell me mash bill doesn't matter. If you go put in 60 or 70% corn and some rye or wheat and some barley, you'll have a really good whiskey. And I'm like, come taste the 100% corn, 100% rye, 100% wheat, 100%
they're so
barley,
different.
and they're so different when you taste them. Like, how can it not make a difference in the final flavor? So that's the most fun part for me.
Let's see here. Craig Blumenthal asks, have you ever thought about doing a collaborative distilling with any other local distillers?
Oh, that's a good one.
We haven't done it with other local distillers, but we do a lot of we'll sell our barrels to different breweries or wineries and things like that pretty often. But we have done a couple with Lost Lantern, which is like an independent bottler. Which was
I've seen some of their stuff.
And then they've done it with their Far Flung bourbon had 3 other distilleries in it along with ours. It was delicious and super fun for me to taste.
And then this is kind of a funny story. Everybody knows Dr. Pat from Wilderness Trail, and he actually, this is so funny. He came out to the distillery, and it just so happened the week before we got a truckload of barrels in, and we use Independent Stave. He also uses Independent Stave for his cooperage, and they laser your logo on the barrel. So we're unloading all the barrels, and at the very back of the truck, the last barrel off, was a Wilderness Trail, empty barrel. And we were laughing so hard because Dr. Pat comes to visit us, and we just so happened to get an empty barrel that should have been on his. So we're we're gonna fill this up. One day maybe we could do a collab.
Well, and what we did, that was probably 4 years ago now.
Ready.
And what we did is we took a 4.5-year-old whiskey of ours, dumped it into the new Wilderness Trail barrel, and that was 4 years. So we have probably an 8 or 9-year-old double oaked, super long Wilderness Trail barrel collab that's super fun. But it's funny because I didn't even realize it. I knew I got the barrel, and then Dr. Pat came and I was showing him around, and Russell's like, "Hey, I got something in our barrel warehouse I bet you've never seen before," just joking around with him. And it's his barrel.
It's what? How did this happen? So somebody out there got a Frey Ranch barrel.
Yeah, they shorted us.
They shorted us. Somebody's got one.
This isn't a question when you guys were talking, I was just thinking, I know there's trees on the property, right?
Yeah.
What type of trees are they?
They're all mostly poplar. And there's a lot of elm trees, and I don't know if they'd make very good barrels.
That's what I was gonna say. It would be. I don't know if there was any type of.
That's a whole nother.
It's the one thing that I don't think we could do with growing it on the farm is oak trees.
I mean, that would
I was just thinking full.
Oh my gosh!
Everything, but
that is such an art to know that barrels hold liquid and there's nothing really. There's no glue. There's
Oh my
no
gosh, yeah.
anything. The only thing holding together is the hoops, and it's just like blows my mind.
All right, got a couple more here. Let's see. Federico Fellini says, do the two of you have a favorite memory of either the first time you tried a whiskey or the first whiskey/bourbon you fell in love with outside of your own?
I mean, pretty much
Yeah.
anyone that I drink with Ashley is like
Yeah.
the best.
I will say I met Heather Green, and she has a brand, My Lemon Green, and they're out of Texas.
Yeah.
And she's a whiskey sommelier, I guess that's what you would call it. I love her whiskeys, and I love everything that she stands for and what she does for women in distilling. So that would be, I guess, my vote. I always keep a bottle of hers at the house and stay in touch with her. She's a wonderful person. So
yeah, we carry some of our products at our Austin restaurant.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, for sure. Yeah.
What about you, Colby?
I like them all.
Yeah,
honestly,
say,
I'm just like, I love trying different whiskeys. I even like, I mean, I can't remember like a time that like really made it, but it's super fun to try like everybody's different whiskeys, and then
that's kind of what makes it fun.
Yeah, so it's not like one whiskey;
and,
it's like all of them. And even like, I mean, even trying sometimes, and this is going to sound bad, but like some scotches, not like the Isla Pete dirty sock ones, but like your Speyside type scotches are okay to drink sometimes, and it's super fun to try some Japanese whiskeys and stuff like that, but mostly bourbon.
All right, let's do one more question, and then we'll run through them and pick some winners. Let's see. Aang asks, when you were doing the design of your bottle, what were some other shapes you considered or discussed? I enjoyed the explanation of the final design. I'm curious about anything else.
So we had this one that so what I like about this bottle too, it's kind of in the shape of our silo. But we had this one that had it kind of had a big smooth spot right here, but then it had like circles all the way around it. And I really liked it.
It was a screw. Like it was like you had like the topper, and then it like had the circles.
I don't think it didn't spiral though. They were solid.
Oh, it was
cool. I really liked it because I mean it looked like a decanter also, but it didn't really inspire me on the farming side. And so like this is super nice, but it's not like super modern, or it's not also not super like, we were also not going for like a sepia tone, like burnt edges on the label or anything like that, you know? So we wanted to be crisp, fresh, like, but almost like a modern take on farming, old farming, you know? And that to me was a little bit too like fancy, glitzy.
Yeah, I think that you look at some of, you got stock bottles, and then you have custom bottles. And some of the stock bottles we definitely looked at just because they're easily and readily available. The ones that kind of look like a flask, or the, Bullet has like a very iconic bottle. There's options like that. But when we really started like diving into the brand, the look, the feel, the tone of the brand, we ended up with this bottle that kind of looks like the silo.
We just couldn't see ourselves in like a stock bottle. That
like the saddle.
Other people you could have sitting on the shelf could be just like yours. Yeah.
Well, I love the final product. So you guys made some good decisions. All right, let's roll through these questions, and then Colby, you'll pick your favorite. Ashley, you pick yours, and then I have the hard decision. I will take the blame for or the credit, however you want to look at it, on who gets what. So we had the question from Mark Horowitz about the monitoring the rick house and the computers and the weight and the Plum Bob. We had the question about the harvest. How has the harvest been? How do you monitor low yields, different flavors based off of the year? Tim Moore asked a question about the waiting period of 7 years and not needing to source and blend. Frank Mace asked a question about the year-round barrel strength rye. William Holt asks about the strains and heirloom grain. Sorry, give me 1 second here to make sure I cover them all. Craig Blumenfield asked, thought about doing collaborations with other local distilleries. Frederico asked the question about favorite memory or first bottle of whiskey you fell in love with. And then Aang asked the question about the bottle design, and if you considered any other options. I think those were all of them. So what were your favorite 2 questions? Colby, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm just looking at these. I have 3. I'm trying to
pick
decide. Yours going to be the bottle.
Maybe.
I knew already. It's not a surprise for me, but I think the question about oh, dang it.
There's good ones.
I think the harvest yield one, because I'm a farmer and I like to talk about that kind of stuff. But
So that was the Matthew Archer question. How do you guys manage low yields and
yep,
in that one?
low yields and everything. Yeah, because that's
Okay.
something that, like, as a farmer, we have to actually think a year ahead of every other distillery, and that's like what's kind of crazy about it is like most distilleries just need some grain. Oh, they want to up their production, they just order some more grain. We have to be a year ahead of that, and really even more than the 5 or 6 years that you have to, we're distilling today what we're gonna bottle in 6, 7 years, but then now we got to
No, for sure.
today what we're gonna 7 or 8 years.
All right, Ashley, which one do you like the
I'm
best?
so with Frederico. I love that question about what other whiskeys we love and we tried, because for me the whiskey community is so amazing and we all lift each other up, and so any opportunity to highlight other producers is something that I really enjoy doing, because so many people do it for us, that to be able to give back. And like I said, it is such a small community of producers out there. So yeah, great question.
It is amazing. Like, yeah,
Everyone's so supportive.
All right. Well, considering the story and the history of the brand, I'm going to have to go with the more farming specific question for the first place prize. Sorry, Ashley. Or sorry, Frederico. So first place prize for the single barrel wheat's going to go to Matthew Archer, and then the additional swag bag will go to Frederico. So
Yeah.
I say this genuinely, and Colby and Ashley, you are some of the nicest people I've ever met in this, and there's amazing people in this industry, and just some of the nicest, most humble, talented people in the industry that I've ever met. And I'm a huge fan of Frey Ranch, and I'm hoping that we were able to introduce some of our members to the distillery and the brand, and they also are going to fall in love with Frey Ranch. And I look forward to doing more work together and growing the relationship. And hold on, let me pour a little bit more.
Wait for Trevor. No, we appreciate it, Trevor. Like it is really true that like people like you and the amazing people that are in your group, and it makes it all the hard work worthwhile.
And we love Eureka
I mean?
Burger. And like, honestly, yeah. I'm like, when I know you have a restaurant in Vegas, so Northern Nevada, hopefully it gets
if Fallon, Nevada ever makes your list, it'd be great.
On,
yeah, we need a Eureka. No, Fallon, come on, let's ask for. You're gonna ask for it.
The Reno might be an easier sell to ownership than Fallon.
Well, if we got to settle that, Reno will be okay. It'd be my second choice.
All right. Well, cheers. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Thank you, everyone, for being a Whiskey Club member. We look forward to a lot of exciting things in 2025. And safe out there. Take care of your loved ones. And Happy New Year. Cheers.
Happy New Year's.